Viva Real Estate for the Americas, where we interview local market experts. Today I'm with Thomas Lloyd. He owns Top Mexico Real Estate in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. He also manages the blog topmexicorealestate.com/blog. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brian. It's great to be here.
Who's moving down to Mexico, and what are they looking for?
The main reason people are coming down here, one is the temperatures, the views. The people are falling in love with Mexico in itself. Second is probably the cost difference. Just to buy property, the price per square meter, the rent per square meter versus some of the more developed countries like United States. It's much less expensive down here in Mexico. We see quite a bit. People who have vacation down here have already fallen in love with the area. They're coming down and buying their second home. Their decision-making process has been, do I want to continue paying for a hotel room or a vacation rental, or should I just go ahead and make a purchase and stay in it myself, which has been creating quite a bit of appreciation.
Is there anything that you come across, speaking with people that are considering Mexico as a place to either retire to or buy real estate, that is a common misconception that you time and time again have to inform or educate about?
There's still a lot of surprises that many people, they don't realize you can own property here in Mexico being a foreigner. So that still needs the introduction to a lot of the people. Some other things too are basically that you can work down here in Mexico. You can get your work permit. You have to go through, I would say it's even a more relaxed process than up in the States.
And what do people do besides buy a nice place on the beach and enjoy the great weather and food? What are retirees doing once they get down there? How are they spending their time?
Along the Mexican Caribbean, there's just a lot of history, and being that we're right in the middle of the Mayan culture, there's pyramids in all sections of the state. You have Chichen Itza with the Tulum pyramid. There's also the Coba pyramids. There's pyramids that have not even been discovered yet in the jungles and things. So that's very exciting. And then once they're down here for about 2 or 3 weeks, they start venturing off into Mérida, which is a capital city here of the Yucatan. That's a beautiful city. It's a colonial city. From Mérida, they can also venture over to Campeche and to Chiapas and Oaxaca. I've noticed that a lot of my friends now who have purchased, that when they're coming down, they're inviting me to longer trips to explore more of Mexico, which is fascinating for me because I love traveling.
Yeah.
The other things a lot of people are doing too, which is a lot of fun, I'm seeing these little, they're not camps, but they're little schools. You can learn Spanish, and so there's little communities popping up all around town and in the region. There's a tremendous amount of things to do here in Mexico once you're living, and fishing, kayaking. There's not enough days in the year.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
There's just miles and miles of beaches still that they're not developed. They're just amazing.
Any potential developing areas that turn into kind of a haven for investment or getaway spots to check out and find a spot to relax on the beach?
Yeah, there's several. There's a lot of factors that you have to look for when you do an investment, obviously, as in any country. There's a lot of opportunity in Mexico, being that Mexico is still an emerging country. There's a lot of cities that have an incredible infrastructure, but there's still little fishing villages that are just starting to be discovered. There's a lot of investment opportunities along here in the Mexican Caribbean. For example, Cancun is still a very young city. Cancun was born only about 35, 40 years ago. It's been very, very successful. Then there was Playa del Carmen. Over the last 10 years, it's outpaced the growth of Cancun. So as you look further south in my region, there's a lot of attention on Tulum, down in that area. That's the next one. People have seen what has occurred in Cancun, what has occurred in Playa del Carmen. It's just logical that you're going to think that, the same thing's going to repeat here in Tulum. And the beaches in Tulum are just incredible.
How do you see the U.S. economy slow down, really the worldwide economic slowdown? How has that affected foreign investment in Mexico, people looking to buy property?
That's an interesting question, because we're still trying to put our heads around it, how it's going to affect us completely. Our market, specifically our market here along the Mexican Caribbean, we're fed basically from the American buyers, but we're also strongly fed from Canadian. And like I mentioned before, we have a lot of Europeans who have been buying their second homes here on the Mexican Caribbean too. We've been shielded a little bit from that effect just because we have a variety of buyers from different regions. We don't just exclusively have clients from the United States. Now, with that said, I guess this first quarter for the first several quarters, the effect hasn't been drastic. I know we have a lot of people, they call us and they say, well, how much have your prices been adjusting? Not that much down here in Mexico. Now, what we are starting to see are some properties are coming out on the market that are much more flexible. We won't get an entire grasp of what's going on until basically the end of the spring season. This is basically our high season, along with people as they go on vacation. That's a lot of times when they decide that this is when I'm going to make my purchase or an offer and go through with the transaction. So until the end of this 2009 spring season, that's when we'll be able to see exactly how much it affected our market here in this region of Mexico. We do see spots here and there of Americans who are, and it's mainly Americans, who are putting their property out there for sale. They are willing to negotiate. It is going to be a buyer's market. Even some of the developers, we are preparing for, basically the hope is, United States, the economy is going to be able to recover here hopefully by the fall. If that occurs, then we should be able to just kind of slide and glide by without a huge adjustment to the prices. You also have to put that in perspective. The foreign buyers is only a percentage of the entire market, logically. Along the coast, the majority of the buyers are Mexicans from Mexico City, from Monterrey, from wealthy and middle-income families. So the economy here in Mexico, fortunately for us, it has not been beat up that bad thus far. Now we have to look at the future. I mean, like I said before, that if the United States, the economy, it just keeps being depressed like it has been for a continued lapse of time, well, definitely it's going to hit Mexico as it's going to hit every country here in the world.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone just starting out in the home buying process or the real estate investing process in Mexico? What are the first couple steps that they should take? What advice do you have for those people?
First, it's a little bit similar to your home country, like the States and Canada and UK, the process, but there are a little bit of minor differences, but those differences are very, very important. So I guess the first step that I would always recommend to people is, surround yourself with a good professional team. You need to have a good realtor to answer your questions, point you in the right direction too, create the entire real estate team. Because down here in Mexico, you need to depend quite a bit on, first, your realtor to help you, point out good deals, good options, good properties, listen to what you're looking for, and he's able to give you a good variety of choices. Second, you need to have a good lawyer to review the contracts, prepare the promissory contracts, your title, and to explain slowly to you the entire process, because like I mentioned before, there's several extra steps. Along here in Mexico, there's a zone they call the restricted zone. This area is right next to the beachfront, about 50 kilometers. Anything along this restricted zone, you have to purchase your property through a bank trust, or you set up a Mexican corporation. So that's where a good lawyer and your realtor, they're able to hold your hand and guide you through this entire process. My number one tip would be go out there, find yourself a good realtor. A realtor with a lot of experience. There's an organization called the AMP organization. That's a sister with the NAR up there in the States. I recommend that you find someone who's affiliated with this organization.
Well, that's about it. We're going to wrap up the show here. Thomas, thanks a lot for being a part of Viva Real Estate for the Americas. We really enjoyed your insight to the local market there in Playa del Carmen.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, Brian.